Hi, this is Dan Cortopassi of TSG Multimedia, and today I'm reviewing an HO Scale F40PH from Rapido trains. The real F40 served on Amtrak from the 1970s into the early 2000s. This model has an MSRP of $299.95. This model has an MSRP of $299.95, which includes a Loxound DCC sound decoder. This model is also available in a DCC-ready DC version for $199.95. The model has excellent detail, including freestanding grab irons, windshield wipers, and rear-view mirrors. A lot of these details are normally installed by modelers, so if you're into super detailing, you won't have to do much with this engine. The paint on the model is well done. I couldn't find any voids in the red, white, and blue stripes. The lettering is also very crisp and legible. My model is unnumbered, but Rapido also offers this engine in several numbers. Also, they offer it in Phase 2 and Phase 3 paint. Rapido also includes a decal sheet with numbers for those like me wishing to number their own engine. The front-end detail is excellent. It includes MU hoses and uncoupling levers. The model is equipped with KD couplers. The couplers on both ends were at the correct height. The model has more freestanding grab irons on the top of the nose. You can get a better view of the windshield wipers from this angle. The model also has optional parts like the rock-throwing guards that they sometimes put over the windows. So if you wanted to add those parts, they do come with it. My particular example was missing its horn. I like the cab interior on this model because it's painted and not just raw plastic like in some other models. The back end includes similar details to the front with MU cables, uncoupling lever, and freestanding grab irons. The plastic handrail on the back would look better if the handrail part was a little bit thinner. I think it's a little on the thick side. Roof detail includes lift rings, dynamic brake vent, and antennas. The radiator and dynamic brake fans feature see-through grills. The strobe lights on the cab are functional and can be controlled with DCC. And included but not installed is an optional air conditioner. I don't think this is going to show up in the picture, but the grills on the sides of the engine are actually see-through, and it's pretty neat because there's actually stuff behind them. I really like all of the underbody detail and plumbing on this model. Rapido did a really good job with that. The model has metal wheels. 2 of the wheel sets were out of gauge, although to Rapido's credit, the instruction manual does tell you how to fix that. The instruction manual also mentions that if you have missing parts to please contact them, so I'll have to do that about my horn. This engine weighs 15.2 ounces, which should make it a fairly good puller. On my example, some of the truck detail had fallen off. 2 of these cross pieces like this, one on the front truck and one on the back. I don't think these are critical details, and they can probably be popped back in, but even if you left them off, I don't think it would cause any harm, and they're hardly visible anyway, so really not that big of a deal. One thing that's nice with this engine is that they set the sound decoder at the factory to be not so loud. In fact, they even talk about this in the manual, that they think that most models are set to be absurdly loud, and they didn't do that with this one. I kind of like it. The manual is actually kind of humorous. I could tell that whoever wrote it has a sense of humor. It's kind of fun to read. The model registered 2.9 ounces of pull on my force gauge. As I mentioned before, the strobe lights on the top of the engine work, and they can be made to work either synchronously or asynchronously, which is kind of neat, depending on which buttons you press. The rear headlight can also be operated independently, which is useful if you're trying to be prototypical, because the rear headlight wouldn't normally be on unless they're hustling the engine and just moving it by itself. So this is on a DCC track. The number boards are just on. There doesn't seem to be a way to turn them off, which is fine for me anyway. The headlight operates on the 0 key like you'd expect. F6 turns on the strobes. Right now they're flashing together. And if you press F10, then they'll operate independently. F9 operates the front marker lights. So if you're using the engine in push-pull service running in reverse, those would be appropriate. You can also dim the headlight with F7. So one cool feature about the decoder in this engine is that it will simulate HEP mode, which is how the F40PHs ran. So first I'm going to turn on the sound. Then you can put the engine into standby. So the engine won't actually move when it's in standby. I'm advancing the throttle and nothing's happening. Do that with the F4 key, and then if you want to put it in run mode, you hit F5. And it revs up even more, and then it should run. You can also turn both F4 and F5 off and just run it like a normal engine without the HEP mode if you find that annoying. It's a slight jerkiness to the motion, but that can be smoothed out with some CV settings to the decoder. You hit the horn, the bell. It also has an automatic Doppler horn. The engine also has a brake function, which is the F11 key, which will stop the engine, and then if you release the brakes, it'll start going again. So I was mentioning about the folks at Rapido having a sense of humor, and in the manual it tells you that there is no function F15 through F19, and that pressing these functions may be detrimental to your health and that of everyone you know. But what actually happens when you press those keys is you get Star Trek sounds.
Unable to comply. Security clearance level 3 or above is required to access files. Inquiries regarding command functions are no longer accepted from your present location.
Sir, I protest. I am not a merry man.
And also the theme from Greatest American Hero for some reason. If you have a Loc programmer and don't like any of that, you can, of course, change it. Or just by normal CV programming, you could reassign the function keys. I like this model a lot, and it's probably one of the best and most detailed F40s that's ever been released. Normally, I would probably take a spike off for the missing horn. However, since Rapido's offer it in the instructions to replace it, I'm going to let that one go. I am going to take off a spike for the wheels being out of gauge. Other than that, I think it's pretty good, so my final verdict is 9 out of 10 spikes. If you or your company make a product that you'd like us to review, please drop us a line at reviews@tsgmultimedia.com.